Well, hello guys, and today we're gonna see if the Surface Pro 4 is for filmmakers. So, in this video we're simply gonna see if the Surface Pro 4 and how it performs through various tasks between workflow and rendering, especially rendering in some other cases. So let's get sort of into this video. So right here what I'm doing, I took a gameplay footage. I think it's about 40 minutes long, and I started editing it. And I just gotta say, with workflow in After Effects and Premiere Pro, the Surface Pro 4 works fantastic. It runs the Playback Is 1080p, and it's just really smooth. As anytime the playback I play it, it just runs perfectly fine when it comes to playback of any video that is 1080p and below. I did not test 4K video because I didn't have any type of 4K footage right now. Maybe I'll do a 4K video later. But right now, let's just get to the basics. 1080p. Editing and playback in Premiere Pro was super smooth. There wasn't any kind of issue with playback in Premiere Pro and After Effects. But now let's get into something more serious. 3D. 3D is something that I really like to do a lot with the Surface Pro 4, and I think it did an amazing job. I opened up 3ds Max, and with the workflow was just fine. There weren't any hiccups at all. And I actually doing right now a Film Effects simulation, and as I'm seeing, I'm comparing it to my own PC, this one being the iCore 7 version of the Surface Pro 4 and my PC being iCore 5, the Surface Pro 4 exceeded when it came to simulations. As we can see right here, the Surface Pro 4, which is in the background, is at 31 frames, running at a rough 5 minutes. While my PC, which is in the foreground, is still in 30 frames, and the elapsed time is around 7 minutes. I know it's kind of blurry, but it is 7 minutes, and it still hasn't reached at least 32 or 31. Now we're in Premiere Pro, and I'm rendering two videos. The one in the background is for the Surface Pro 4, and the one that in the foreground is for my PC. In this case, the PC was way faster rendering the video. Some reason, the Surface Pro 4 was actually, the fan was turned on really high, and you could hear it, and suddenly it bumped up to 40 minutes when in my PC was only 19 minutes. It really meant and really was no sense. I rendered videos before on the Surface Pro 4, and they are faster. But on the PC, it was way faster this time. It was only about from 24 to 15 minutes, and it was already done. So the question came to my mind, what was I doing differently? Regularly, the videos I render on the Surface Pro 4 are between 10 minutes to around 15. Those were gameplay footage that lasted about 40 to 50 minutes, almost an hour, and it was really long to render. And also, I didn't have a big fan to cool the computer while I was doing it. That was the only apparent reason. Even though the Surface Pro 4 is a good tool, don't mind yourself. The Surface Pro 4 does an amazing job with doing work on the fly or on the go. If that's the purpose for you to have a Surface Pro 4 to edit videos or compose some videos, do maybe some 3D modeling or any kind of other workflow related project you're going to do on the fly, and maybe save it so you can continue it later on the desktop PC, the Surface Pro 4 does that just perfectly. And that's the perfect use I've found for the Surface Pro 4. Yes, the Surface Pro 4 can render regularly small videos between 10 to around 15 or even maybe 20-minute videos. But after that, any kind of footage that's more than that longer, for example, gameplay footage, which is usually long, more than 30 minutes most of the time, it could take some time to render, when in my desktop would only take 14 minutes to render such a video. Now we're gonna talk about rendering in 3D software such as Cinema 4D and 3ds Max. I did a couple of tests in the Surface Pro 4, and they were eliminating. This test right now is in the Surface Pro 4, and I was rendering a V-Ray shot of a vehicle. It's only one frame, and it took forever. I don't have the other footage of the PC, but let me just tell you that the PC took 2 minutes and 40 something seconds, 2 minutes and 45 seconds, while this one took a whole lot. But on the other hand, rendering a Film Effects render, just like 100 frame simulation that I did before, and rendering it actually did it faster than my PC. This was actually pretty odd, saying that my PC does take some time to simulate and it does take some time to render. On the Surface Pro 4, it did both of those things faster. Maybe because the simulations only have like 3 lights and the simple simulation. As you can see here, the rendering is quite faster than in my desktop iCore 5 explosion render. But again, that was only one frame. The entire simulation in its entirety in my PC would take like 1 hour to 1 hour and 30 minutes, while on the Surface Pro 4, it only took around 50 minutes. Yeah, incredible. This is like the only thing that I've actually rendered in 3D that's actually done it faster. Everything else, from Cinema 4D or V-Ray or any other kind of really, I will guess, GPU intensive, the Surface Pro 4 cannot perform, where in the other hand, my desktop can. Okay, so now let's get to the conclusion and the results that I've gathered after using this Surface Pro 4 for a couple of weeks. And this is the conclusion that I got to. The Surface Pro 4 is not meant for rendering. Yes, you can render a couple of videos. Any video that's, I would say, 20 minutes and below that, it will be just fine, and it will render it quite quickly. Maybe not as fast as a desktop PC, but quite quickly. I am impressed when it comes to applying effects, transitions, and something like Premiere Pro and rendering it. The playback is just faster. Every time I play back a video on my desktop PC, it has more RAM, it has better GPU. The only difference is that the desktop is a iCore 5 and the Surface Pro 4 is an iCore 7. Again, the iCore 7 Surface Pro 4 does exceed in playback of any type of video. I can add a bunch of effects to one video on Premiere Pro and play it back just as super smooth as ever. And play it back really smooth, where on my desktop PC it takes a while to actually play back the video correctly. So this is the conclusion that I got to when you're using the Surface Pro 4 for filmmaking purposes. If you are a filmmaker, are you thinking of buying a Surface Pro 4? This is what you're going to do with it. As I said before, the Surface Pro 4 is more meant to do work and workflow related projects on the fly. I wouldn't render any kind of 3D, anything, any kind of 3D. If you want to render something, so anything you want to render in 3D, it's better for you to actually just do whatever you want to do there if you want to. If you have no other option but to do something on the fly, you can go ahead with no problem on Cinema 4D or 3ds Max or Maya, and you can use any of those softwares for any kind of workflow related work that you're doing. If you're going to render any of those, if it is a like to make it a small video or just to see how it looks, you prefer not to. Firstly, it's gonna take a whole lot of time, like too much time, and you're just not gonna, it may take like 7 to 10 minutes to render just one frame depending on the scene that you're rendering. it's better for you just to workflow around it. Let's say you have to do a quick you have to make a scene or render, or you got to make a quick scene to model something or to whatever you got to do. Anything that you can do modeling in the Surface Pro 4. Yes, that's perfect. I actually done it and it works really smooth. You can use ZBrush with this. It works really good. But if you want a rendering, not so much. It just doesn't work that well. But let's do some other things that you can do in the Surface Pro 4. For example, camera tracking. That is something you can totally do here. You can import a footage, take it into Surface Pro 4, and camera track it on the go. Let's say you're in in some sort of you're far away from home and you have to shoot this video and you have to get it ready by before Friday, and you're gonna be in this location for around 3 days. So you're gonna use those 3 days to shoot everything you're gonna do. When you finish, import it to the Surface Pro 4, and if you have to do some camera tracking, you can do it in the Surface Pro 4. If you got to edit some videos, you can do that in the Surface Pro 4. You have to composite some visual effects, you can also do that on the Surface Pro 4. All of those things work perfectly fine. And if you have to use 3D, 3ds Max, 4D Maya, yes, you can do that too, but you shouldn't render anything when it comes to 3D. Another thing, if you're planning on using Element 3D, which is Video Copilot's plugin for using 3D models in After Effects, which I love, I use it all the time, and unfortunately you cannot use that plugin in the Surface Pro 4. It just doesn't support it. The graphics that the Surface Pro 4 i7 has is the Iris 540, Intel Iris 540, and no, you cannot use Element 3D in the Surface Pro 4. That's a shame, and I really hope that maybe someday they might be able to do it, but I just don't think so, because the Element 3D depends a lot on a GPU. That's what it says. It depends a lot on the GPU of the desktop computer to actually work correctly. So, again, a recap of everything that you can do in the Surface Pro 4 if you're using it for filmmaking purposes. If you're going to composite visual effects, edit video, camera track, maybe do something else like writing some scripts or any kind of text work you got to do, you can do that in the Surface Pro 4. Even 3D workflow, you can also do it there. Maya, 3ds Max, and Cinema 4D in the workflow, not rendering. And what about rendering videos? Yes, you can render videos in the Surface Pro 4. A bunch of my footage and videos from my filmmaking channel, reviews, such like those reviews, were rendered in the Surface Pro 4, and they took around 10 minutes to 11 minutes, sometimes 20, depending on the video's length and the effects I have with it. Saying that those videos don't have that much effects, they only have a couple of maybe some fades, and that's it. Other than that, everything else is a bunch of images and audio and music and the video. Other than that, everything else just works fine. If you're thinking of using the Surface Pro 4 for rendering gameplay videos, well, if you really have no other choice, let's say you don't have your desktop, you're on a hotel and you have to do it now, well, you can do it, of course, but try to make it below 25 minutes. And if it is beyond that, 1 hour or maybe 50 minutes or anything above 20 minutes, it's just gonna take a while to render. And if not, at least have an ice pack behind the Surface Pro 4, at least, to keep it cool, because it's gonna get really hot and really loud. Yes, this thing does get pretty loud. So yeah, that's mainly the couple of things that you can do as a filmmaker. I bought the Surface Pro 4 for college, specifically for college. When I'm in college, I can do my homework and everything on the Surface Pro 4. But I am a filmmaker. I make videos. I love to play games, and I like to do all those things on the Surface Pro 4 because I can multitask. While something's rendering on the Surface Pro 4, I can go do something else on my desktop PC. and I have enjoyed every time I've used Surface Pro 4. I just love using the Surface Pro 4, and I also got it for its portability. The portability of the Surface Pro 4 is amazing. It's 12-inch tablet that I can carry anywhere. It's not heavy at all, and it is very powerful. It does pack a punch. It does. It's just because it's small does not mean it can pack a punch. Oh, it can. It can do mostly over 80% of everything that my desktop does, other than, use Element 3D and render really fairly quickly. Other than that, the Surface Pro 4 does really perform very well. And if you're thinking of getting one, I would totally encourage you to do so. Of course, unless those things you're planning on doing, such as rendering 3D models or something, or rendering gameplay footage, which you can do. It's just gonna take a while, and you can also use other softwares, and you might actually get other even better improved performance. But in other hands, I really do encourage you to get a Surface Pro 4 if you can. I got it mainly for college, and because of its portability and ability to, it's like so portable, it's touchscreen. Other than that, it's an amazing tablet/laptop. It's amazing. I've enjoyed it. I think it's really great. I really loved it. I really have enjoyed it. It's really portable, and just because of that, I really enjoy using the Surface Pro 4. I think it's an amazing device, and I wouldn't change it for anything, because it just fits my needs. So guys, what do you think about this video? Do you find it useful? Comment down in the description below what you thought about it. I hope it really helped you guys. I've been using and testing the Surface Pro 4 for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and I really have enjoyed my time with it. And I just been trying to do a bunch of renders and test it out just to see the things and how far I can take the Surface Pro 4. And I've taken it to about as far as it can get. It cannot render 3D, but at least it can do the work done, at least. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment, like, and subscribe. And until next time, guys, goodbye.